Welcome to Retro Lobbying, where the art of poetry and intelligence has survived. Hi everyone, and welcome to Retro Lobby Inc. today, where I will be reading one of my quotes of the extraordinary that is about how poetry is constructed and how when you read a poem it should conjure up emotion whenever that particular person reads that poem. So that means that'd be a really good poem, because not everybody writes good poetry. You know, some people don't like my poetry, some people do. It just depends. I think everybody is picky when it comes to poetry, and I am. I'm very picky with who I like as poets. I like a lot of English poets, some American. I tend to like the older generation, like from the 1800s, not particularly any new poets. The ones I really like that are new are really good friends of mine. So those are the ones I tend to read. But anyway, what is poetry? Poetry is essentially the magic of the soul. So for me, poetry is my magic. That's what I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about writing. For other people, their poetry may be architecture, it may be music, it may be, whatever they're into. Poetry is, it's very esocentric sometimes, particularly the way I write. I write sometimes for my dreams. I write from sometimes meditation. I do paintings for meditation too. Sometimes I do have visions, or sometimes I do have supernatural events happen to me, and I write from those as well. Let's see, what else? I write from my life. So I write a lot of different ways. I think when you're meditating, or maybe you're bringing in an idea from one level to another, it was strange because my cousin, she is working on my book right now through the Silent Caldera, and she was copy editing it, and she wrote oh my gosh, she wrote in the comments stream of consciousness, and then she wrote I guess semi-stream of consciousness, and then she wrote consciousness, and I was like, really? So I guess I write and I'm not aware sometimes of how people perceive it, but it's very interesting the way she's copy editing it. So but I like to write. I like to write a story. So no matter whether I'm dealing with the subconscious or consciousness, I like to write it down to where at the end it tells a story. So that's the type of poetry I like to write, and I really do feel like poetry is one of the most magical literature forms in the world. Now, another, lyrics is pure magic too. Lyrics is, the only difference is with lyrics is sometimes, you can be driving in the car and you can hear this great song that you love, and you're singing it over and over and over again. You look up the lyrics, and it's totally not what you were singing in your car, and it totally changes the meaning of it. Like I know, Tori Amos, she is one of my favorite musicians, and there was a few songs that I really wasn't quite sure about what I was saying, so I just thought, well, I'll look it up and see what it is on Google, and it totally turned out to be something different. And you know what, I totally didn't want to like that song as much anymore. So I think the great and wonderful thing about poetry is that you can read poetry and you can see it there on the page, and there are no misconceptions about it. You still can perceive it whichever way you want, just like a song, but the words, they're right there in front of you. Whereas if you're just listening to lyrics, sometimes you can misinterpret what those lyrics actually are. So and the other difference between lyrics and poetry really is that there's always that one repeating stanza in music, and that's really what makes a song. Other than that, I think, poetry and lyrics, they can be two different things. Lyrics are always so short, but poetry can really be stretched out and made into something incredible and elaborate and just wonderful that you never thought could be done with poetry. So, that's my take on it, because I am writing a quite different poetry book than the one I just finished. So right now what I'm going to do for you is read my quotes of the extraordinary for you today, and it's about how poetry is constructed. So hold on just one moment. Poetry is architecturally composing words into the perfectly elaborate prose to evoke an emotional osmosis. And I wrote that on January 19th, 2012 at 9 p.m. But anyway, I'll tell you how I compose poetry really quick. And what that quote is basically saying is that if you write a poem and that person reads that poem, it should evoke an emotional response from that person. And it should basically reach their soul and allow them to, feel the poem, to spiritually connect with that poem and what the writer or the poet is saying. That's really what it's about. But I'll tell you how I compose poems. Poems are a lot like building a building. They really are. What you can do, and this is how I write poetry, is sometimes I just write an outline, a basic outline of whatever idea I have. And then sometimes I go back and change it. Now, sometimes I just write a poem as is and it turns out fine, and that's good and dandy. But really, for the most part, if you take something, an idea that you have, and you just write down the outline of it, and you go back and you just, you change the parts you want to change to sound better, to read better. And that's what I do for the most part. A great thing to use is a thesaurus, because, sometimes, or the dictionary, because for the most part, what will happen is you will get stuck. Like there's a word, like, let's say you have a very bland word, back off camera, a very bland word that you need to be more elaborate. Dictionary is great for doing that. The thesaurus is great for doing that. It will give you better ideas to what you are trying to convey to your reader. So that doesn't have to mean it needs to be a word that they don't know necessarily. I use a lot of bigger words because I like them, because they identify what I want that reader to perceive. But you just need to play around with words. That's the thing with poetry. You need to play around with the words. With a novel, you're writing, it's more direct. With novels, you're writing directly to the reader. You don't have to give them any mystery, because the mystery comes in the chapters that you read collectively. So it's figuring out one thing after another. Now with poems and poetry, it's a bit different, because if you want there to be mystery, then you have to kind of build upon that each stanza, not each chapter. So you really have to be careful how much you let out per stanza. So it is basically building poetry. If you write quotes, hell, leave your quotes below. Let me read them, if you write quotes. And oh yes, Quotes of Extraordinary will be becoming an app. I have to wait for the guy to come back from India. He's, and with foreigners, you never know when they're coming back. So, especially if they have a big family in another country, they could be gone for a month and a half, sometimes two. We'll just have to see. If not, I might outsource it, because I really want that done. So what that means is, from Retro Lobby Inc., for me, you are going to get an app that's going to continually grow until it reaches the status of half a book, which would be, it would have to be a lot, because I don't always write quotes of extraordinary. I maybe do 2 or 3 a month, maybe for my status updates, and that's about it. So it will be updated until it reaches halfway point to a book, which would be a long time from now. So anyway, I hope all of you enjoyed this, and I will be doing another one eventually. So hopefully tonight, maybe. I don't know. I have to do some more poetry videos, and then, you know, I'm trying to flip back and forth. So anyway, have a good day, everybody, wherever you are. I love you all. Thank you guys for always supporting me when it comes to my writing. I appreciate it. And blessings to you all. Bye.